Oh, yes. Good, Sir Knight. You have proved your worth on the field of honor. And now you must prove yourself in mortal combat with a monster so terrifying, so awe-inspiring, so horrible, so soul-destroying, that even I would hesitate to meet it face to face in hand-to-hand combat. Is that all right?
Yes, I suppose so, my darling, yes.
And so, go forth and slay the beast. And take with you the royal blessings. And also the blessings of Mother Church. Bishop!
You are listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. The following podcast contains adult language, adult situations, and spoilers for the movies discussed occur often. You've been warned. Now, take it away, Dr. Rausch.
They must be destroyed on sight.
All right, welcome back. It is They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, episode 235, and I'm your host, Lee. Darker than anyone had ever expected, Russell. I'm joined by my co-host, Lee, a nun in the guise of the devil, Hardy. How you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent.
And we
And we have a special guest, Vaughn, the devil in the guise of a nun, Kuhlmeier. How you doing, sir?
Hi, how are you? I've actually never heard anybody say my own name outside of podcasting before, so that's different.
Yeah, I doxed poor Vaughn in the show, and it's
no
over
big deal.
for him. Yeah.
I mean, like, who's going to come for me? I mean, come on.
Maybe Matt from Movie Melt, maybe.
You're right.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing Jabberwocky from 1977. I just gave our movie list to Vaughn. I was like, come on the show, pick a movie, and he picked this one. So that's what we're doing.
Yep.
We're going to have a talk about that a little bit later on, but first we're going to get into what we've watched lately. So I will throw it over to you, Vaughn.
Okay, so the Chattanooga Virtual Film Festival is going on right now. And one of the things that they were promoting on it was the Kayla Janice directed Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched, A History of Folk Horror. It's a documentary. It's a 3-hour documentary, so it's pretty in-depth about the whole concept and history of folk horror within every genre, not just the British horror, American, South African, all of it. It's really comprehensive. And I kind of knew about it because there's a bunch of people I follow, a lot of writers, and some people I'm friendly with are in it. So I've known about it for a couple of, like, a year and a half or something like that. It's been doing the festival circuit. Severin owns the release, so it'll get a Blu-ray at some point. And it's really comprehensive. You know, it kind of goes into all that stuff. It goes into, like, you know, the kind of starts of it, of, like, it goes into Czech horror, Czech folk horror and stuff like that. Oh, it's a real fun documentary. It's kind of hard to watch on your computer screen, so, like, I took it in chunks, like hour chunks. But it was worth it. Definitely worth checking out.
Oh yeah, I saw on your Letterboxd that you had watched that. But then I immediately stuck it on my watch list. So yeah.
I hope that when Severin does release it, like when they do these kind of documentaries, like they did the one on anthology documentary last year, and they put out a bunch of anthology films, like really hard to find ones, that they'll do that. And they've already put The Mark of the Devil out, which is a really great folk horror from around the same time of The Wicker Man and Witchfinder General.
Yeah.
It's kind of the one out of those three that people don't really talk about. But I hope that they put out some like really obscure, weird stuff. Because they've already put out Vive, the Czech, is it Czech or Polish folk horror film, which is a really interesting little film about a priest getting stuck in a rotten cathedral with a witch for an evening. It's quite interesting.
Right on.
But yeah, I had a good time with it.
If they're really going after folk horror stuff to release, like maybe they can. I don't know if the BBC even still has half of the shit, but like a lot of the kind of BBC stuff that was on TV and stuff in the
that's 70s. One of the things one of the good half hour of the episode of the documentary is about those like M.R. James Christmas horror movies and stuff like that they would do, because a lot of those are reminiscent, a lot of folklore from the UK. So yeah, and they did have scenes from it. So, but I don't know how they didn't. They look like television quality, but you never know.
They did a lot of television stuff, like what's his name, Nigel Neal or whatever.
Yep.
So he has stuff like the Stone tapes and things like that.
That's definitely one on that documentary. I put on my letterbox to watch whenever I can find it.
Right on.
It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really good. Anything else?
I've been podcasting all week. I did 36 Chambers of Shaolin with Brady from Solid 6 and Daniel from the Mustachioed Podcastio. They both say hello, by the way.
Hello, gentlemen.
And then I did an episode with Mike Justice on two kind of better known Bond kind of spoofs, I guess, your parodies. Casino Royale from 1967 and Never Say Never Again from 1983.
Oh yeah,
because Mike has a thing for Sean Connery, so we were like, I just kind of knew he'd get a kick out of Casino Royale, which he did, so it was a good time. And then you asked me at the beginning of the week for this, and I was like, oh great, awesome, let's just keep rolling.
Might as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, actually. If it works out, next week's episode, Daniel from the Mustachio Podcast is going to be on the show. So yeah,
you might want to start bringing that up to him, because we were talking about that on the show, not on like off air. And he was saying how he drunken texts podcasts and discusses recording with them, and then wakes up the next day and goes, "Wait, what?" What? He does that with me. He's done that with me too a couple times with his show, where I'm like, "We're still doing this, right?" He's like, "Oh fuck." Like, yeah, dude. So
yeah, no. When I came on the show for Street Law, it was like almost spur of the moment. He was like, "I totally forgot, homie." This like,
yeah, no, right, right,
yeah.
Okay.
All right, Lady Lee.
So for my film class this week, I had to watch Boyhood, which is a movie that they recorded in the span of 12 years. So they just used the same actors and just kept them and used like the actual lifespan. So there's no real storyline to it. You're just kind of following the life and times of the one actor. And movie itself, it's not my kind of movie. It's very slow going, but the concept is insanely interesting, because you do actually see the evolution of all of the actors. Like you see them create a bond. So when from the young children to like the graduation day to the emotions of the actors, like every time they kind of hit a milestone in their life, it felt really real, because they had bonded for so long, because they had worked together for so long. And all the scenes felt very real as well. Like they felt very natural, because they've been connecting for 12 years. So, and they've been working on these characters for so long that the actual acting was brilliant. Like it was very clever, very interesting concept, very different. Not my kind of movie, but I definitely encourage people to go watch it.
The one thing I remember about that film is that Patricia Arquette and Ethan Hawke don't age. Like it just seems like they're the same look. Like the hair,
just to get the gray hair. A bit.
The hair, like, the style changes their hair, but they look the same in that 12-year period. It's like holy shit.
Yeah,
they even said they didn't want to use any makeup, like too much makeup to cover
they
the
make
aging.
them look very natural, which is really cool.
Yeah, but it's because they wanted to show the aging, but there's barely any aging considering like what he got gray hair.
Yeah, but the kid who's in the film is definitely the one where it's like, you can tell as they progress. It's like, But they go from like very young children to adolescent. Is that the only Linklater film you've ever seen? Richard Linklater?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of his films are kind of like that. They're kind of just loungy, kind of take their time. So it's like, if you're not particularly into that, you may not be into most of his work.
I appreciate the art. I think I'm happy that I got to watch it because I got to experience it. Just because with these kinds of movies, I tend not to watch them, and now that I'm forced to watch them, I get to appreciate it because there is such a different thing about it. It's not like any other movie. It's very original. So happy that I got to watch it. Would I ever watch it again? No. Would I recommend it? Yes.
All right, cool. So, Vaughn, since you are gracing us for the first time on this podcast, you get to take part in a little game that we do called Movie God.
Oh.
Are you a god?
When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Movie God.
That goes on a little too long, that clip.
We're all waiting in anticipation.
So are you familiar with the Movie God game?
Yes,
Vaughn?
I listen to the show every week. So when you have new guests on, it's a good little segment.
Okay, so for anyone who might be like a first-time listener, basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give Vaughn two things. It's either going to be like two people. They could be actors, writers, directors, even composers, or it could be two movies. It could be sort of anything that's film-related, and he's got to choose one of them to be ripped out of the timeline. It no longer exists. Anything it influenced or is responsible for in its wake is gone. So it's a kind of kill your darlings kind of thing.
I feel like you put a lot of thought to this one because mine I felt like there's less thought. Yours, this one feels like there's more thought because you know I'm a lot better than you did me when I first started.
Yeah, and I haven't had the best of luck lately with this game. I was telling Vaughn offline, but here's the thing: I'm taking a kind of a gamble with this one. I'm like, either this is going to be really hard, or it's going to be like, oh no, just again instantly. Oh no, he's dead. He's dead. Okay, so one of the cool things about your podcast, Vaughn, is that you have your little Easter Fulci series every year. So you get to pick this, Vaughn. You are the movie god, and you must eliminate from the timeline either Lucio Fulci or Mario Bava.
Well, the thing is, like, they're both around the same time, and like Fulci just lived longer. But like Bava's work, it's all out there. I don't know. Like, the thing is, I've read plenty about Bava. Like, Tim Lucas is like one of these kind of guys that I read constantly. He's always talking about him, always writing about it. He's got a huge fucking book that's just it's a door killer. But like if it's like some people, it's easy. Like, it was Argento, Fulci. Get rid of Argento. No offense. I mean, like, I just he's run his course. Like, there's stuff that he's still making. He stopped making good movies after a certain period, and somebody keeps giving him money and just keeps making movies. I mean, Argento and Fulci, he was getting to that point, but then he died of diabetes related issues. So like the world took him out before he got a chance to really be shit. But like, I like because Bava was such a kind of like, not one note, but his stuff was so atmospheric, but it was always, and it's such an interesting to watch. But the thing is, I can actually cut out Bava, right? Because Argento's stuff is because he was Fulci, he was such a workman. He did everything. He did a ton of comedies, which I'm still trying to find more and more of them. I keep finding them on YouTube in like Portuguese. Cut. Like, I'm like, what? I just no subtitles, dubbed in Portuguese. And I'm like, okay, like, sure, I'll watch some of this, and I, put it on the TV and just kind of just look up every 10 minutes because I don't know what's going on. But like, I mean, if I get rid of Bava, you don't have Umberto Bava, so that kind of sucks.
I was about to bring that up. It's like sucks. You got to consider that as well, right?
Yeah,
and also does what's his name, Mikhail Slave?
I guess so. Again, I mean, Joe D'Amato was a big fan. Worked a lot with Slavi. Slavi worked with him a lot when he first came in, and that's kind of how he got his foot in the door. And Fulci too, because he's in the City of the Living Dead. So fuck. But there's so many good, fuck.
You did it right. There you go, Lee.
There, finally.
Yeah, because it's just like. But I think like I love like Fulci for like not just his films. I like his principles. I like the fact that he was this ornery, angry bastard. You know, you look up any interview with him, he just says he just puts his foot down, even though he's a good director, and he knows what he's doing, and his stuff is fun, but he puts it off as he's making art, like he's fucking the next Pasolini. You know what I mean? And he's like, you know, they're shit. I don't like them. And it's like, okay, sure, dude, you get it. And he was kind of a typical Italian. He didn't like the church. You know, a lot of his films, they kind of bring around the church or any kind of religious iconography is kind of spit upon, right? Fuck though. But then you get rid of Alberto Bava. It's like, fuck.
You gotta kind of argue that, at least I would argue that, you know, if there wasn't a Bava, what would Italian horror be?
You know, the thing is, even with Bava being there, he kind of, his stuff is on a pedestal on its own. You have all these other guys. You have Giotto, you have you have Lenzi, you have all these other guys running around underneath him, right? Yeah. His stuff is there, but then there's other guys like, you know, like Pasolini, like I said, and like you know, you have all these other great Italian directors who are higher than him, right? And you're just like, but I can it's just fucking Berto Bava. That's the thing where I'm like I can live without Mario's movies because they're cool to watch, but sometimes I just completely lose track of what the hell's going on. I'm like pretty pictures, but like Umberto Bava is just such a beautiful trashmeister that it's just like, oh fuck, because like you get rid of him, get rid of that, it's like, you don't get stupid shit like Paganini horror and stuff. Bava. You don't get stuff like that. It's like fuck, and like, oh shit.
You stumped him.
That sucks. That really does suck because it's like it's a catch-22 regardless. You know, like you get rid of like, you know, a shitload of really interesting films, and you get rid of a son who made even more bonkers and weirder films than he did. It's like fuck. But then if you get rid of Fulci, you get rid of like 55% of the horror audience. You know what I mean? Like because they're all like, and they're all whiners and just. So like get rid of like half the world. They're like one okay crazy director. Fuck. Damn. I mean, I'm all for like mass genocide when it comes to a reason or a good reason, not like, you know, the Holocaust. That's awful. But like getting rid of whiny assholes online, it might actually be a good idea. Like, fuck. But shit, that sucks. I know, and somebody else would be like, "Oh, it's easy, fucking Fulci. Why would you say nothing else?" But it's like. Fuck. That sucks. No, that's just that's a tough one. No, I don't know. I don't know.
You can't do it?
I can't, no. Because I love Fulci's work, his attitude, the whole kind of 9 yards, you know, and the fact that his kids continued pushing his memory, his legacy, and people continue to, you know, every kind of indie director nowadays takes something from his work. The violence or the craziness or whatever, but then they also do it with Bava's work, with Mario Bava's more, you know, contemporary horror directors take stuff from his work, the kind of visuals and whatnot. It's like fuck, that sucks, man. That sucks, son of a bitch. Like no, I can't. I couldn't take any of them out. Fuck.
Okay, fair enough. We're gonna call it a draw then.
I think Lee's really proud right now. Like he's
I'm a little happy with myself right now. Yeah, I am.
That's a tough one. Yeah,
the only reason why he's accepting like this because he's like, yes, I stopped something.
I know he's gonna get off, and he's like, yeah, that's right. He's fucking happy as shit for next week. Yeah. Oh man.
Okay. Well, fair enough. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to play a podcast promo from a certain podcast that a certain person on this podcast is on. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Jabberwocky.
You ungodly warlock.
Motion Picture Massacre is dedicated to exploitation, cult, grindhouse, and horror films from the last 7,500 fucking years. I don't fucking know. It's everything. If you're interested in that, check out motionpicturemassacre.com, or if you're on iTunes, search Motion Picture Massacre and you'll find it. This has been your announcer, Cowardly Fuck Your Bags, signing off. eat a dick.
You ungodly warlock.
All right, Jabberwocky from 1977, and we have a trailer here.
Jabberwocky. So terrifying that no one will be admitted to the theater until the last 10 minutes of the film. No, I'm sorry. Only 10 people will be admitted to the theater during this film. No one will be admitted to the theater during this. The last 10 minutes only will be anyone being admitted under the age of 10.
The irony is, I think only 10 people actually watched it when it first came out. So Jabberwocky, directed by Terry Gilliam, written by Charles Alverson, who also uncredited on Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
The first draft. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like for the longest time, Terry Gilliam was like, no, he had nothing to do with it.
No, not until like the last 10 years, 20 years, he's actually been like, yeah, maybe he had something to do with it.
And here's the thing. This is what I love about this Charles Alverson guy. His only other real credit is a second seaman in the Ninja Mission from 1984. He just has a bit part as an actor. Well, which I've never seen this movie, so I don't know.
I actually want to now find it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what he looks like, but it's still like, weird.
But he just died in 2020, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's, of course, also written by Terry Gilliam, and it's based on the poem by Lewis Carroll. It's just a nonsense poem, basically. Alice in Wonderland and all that bullshit. So we have Michael Palin. Everybody knows who the fuck he is, as Dennis Cooper. Harry H. Corbett as the Squire, Ethel. And this was interesting to me because I hadn't realized until now. I just made the connection that his last film credit was Silver Dream Racer from 1980, which is this really boring movie about motorcycle racing that has one of the most spectacular, harrowing endings ever. Where
I've seen that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, he was in that.
That's a beautiful fucking bummer ending.
It is. It's a real bummer.
What the fuck?
It's just like a total shift. John Lee Misser as Pasolou, Warren Mitchell as Fishfinger, Annette Badland as Griselda Fishfinger. And I've seen her in other stuff. I think she was in. She's acted up to the 2000s. Yeah, I think I saw her in the first. The new Doctor Who series with
she's in there.
Yeah, she played one. She's
in Willy Wonka, the Burton version.
Oh yeah. Max Wall is King Bruno the Questionable, and also the voice of Red Herring. Deborah Fallender as the princess, who shows us her naughty bits in this film, at least a little bit. Jarrett Wells is Watt Dabney. Bernard Breslau's the landlord. Rodney Buse is the other squire. John Bird is First Herald. Neil Innes. Neil Innes, as he's sort of Monty Python associated, kind of, Terry Jones, just a bit part here as the poacher. He unfortunately just died last year, and
Instant, I think, died 2 years prior to that, 3 years prior to that.
Yeah,
or this year. I forget when.
And it's like 2020 is a lost year now. Like it feels like it didn't happen almost, kind of. But Terry Jones,
Ennis died in 2019.
There you go. Yeah, and Terry Jones was suffering from dementia the last couple of years too, which is Brian Glover is the armorer. Graham Crowden is Fanatics leader. Terry Gilliam in here is Man with Rock, and David Prowse, Darth Vader himself, at least the physical embodiment of Darth Vader, as Red Herring and the Black Knight. So there you go. We have a synopsis here from someone called Nick Reganis on IMDb. Bent on proving his worth and impress his one true love, Griselda Fishfinger, the wide-eyed Cooper apprentice Dennis enters the impregnable gates of King Bruno the Questionable's medieval city. There, mud and terror invade the city as the very thought of an abominable, nightmarish creature lurking somewhere outside the stronghold's towering walls strikes fear in the hearts of men. Under those dire circumstances, only a jousting contest can determine the realm's defender, and for the first time in a long while, ordinary Dennis is the master of his destiny. Now immense riches and a glorious grand prize await the beast slayer. However, can Dennis rid the walled city of the terrible dragon, the Jabberwocky? I think this guy had the same guy had the synopsis for the thing we did the other night there, Lee. The promising young woman.
Maybe.
I think it was. It's the same style. It's like, we're gonna really play this up on the back of the box.
It's a DVD. Like I'm reading off a DVD or VHS. Sorry, it would be VHS back then.
Yeah.
So the one thing about this film is that it's a PG-rated film.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's just the great thing about the 80s. Or 70s actually, is that you get a PG-rated film and you get all of the beauty that's in this fucking movie.
Mm-hmm. So when was the first time you saw this, Vaughn?
Probably when I was like was it 12 or 13? I got into the Pythons through Faulty Towers. Mm-hmm. Faulty Towers was on PBS all the time when we got home from school, right? And my friend and I would just watch it. We thought it was the funniest thing while we were doing our homework. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was just like, okay, what is this? And then I started seeing episodes for Python, and then one of my other friends was like, "Oh, you have to see what I think we saw Meaning of Life, or Meaning of Life," and it's just like, okay, and I was just in, right, and just found anything I could find at the local video house that had any of these guys' names in it, right, and it was just some Palin is kind of question. Palin's out of all those guys, Palin's got the most films, because he kind of continued working. Everybody else kind of either did television or died. I came across this. I think I had seen Time Bandits, and I was looking for something else, and I saw this. And Jabberwocky is a word that I know from reading, and it's like, oh, okay, fine, let's take that. And I just kind of blew my little head off. Just Time Bandits kind of made me a fan of Gilliam, but this film kind of really cemented that. Because this is his first actual, with the Pythons are in there, but not a Python-filled film.
Right.
There wasn't as many either.
Well, yeah, him and Terry Jones would take place with the first film, and then they kind of gave Jones the rights, and then let Gilliam do all the art because they were having too many fights. And the way it starts with Jones roaming around and poaching and then getting ripped asunder. And you see he gets pulled up in the air from the in a crane and making faces, and then you see his body all spewed out, and you're like, wait, this is a PG-rated film? Really? This gore drenched, bit up corpse just laying out there? Okay, fine. And it's about a humble guy who wants to just live a decent life, and he's he doesn't even care. He's courting a woman who has no interest in him at all. All she wants to do is eat and just hang out. She doesn't. There's, she shows no interest in him at all, and it's funny how shit just goes right for him just because he's in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I assume this is first time watch for you, Lee.
Actually, yeah, surprisingly. just because I kind of grew up on Monty Python because my dad's from England, so that was like the movie we watched as a kid was Holy Grail. So actually, funny story. One time my sister was at school and I can't remember how old she was, but she was in elementary school and she was pretty young and she was running around screaming, spank me, and we'll all have oral sex. She had no idea what it meant, but my parents got a call. I think I was still a twinkle in my dad's eye at that point, but my parents tell me that story all the time.
And then they look down in shame and go, she hasn't changed at all.
She's a lot less fun now.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I used to like her at one point. Dad, don't listen to this podcast.
Or just don't let your other daughter listen to it. Because I know she's just in the other room. So.
Exactly. Just keep it on really quiet. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, first time watch, which is pretty surprising. Oh, by the way, Mr. I'm going to give the God thing to Vaughn. What would your answer be? Trying to dodge the question.
Yeah. Let's hear this.
God damn. It
is a tough one, isn't it?
It is a tough one. Fuck.
It's a lot of angles. It's just like you pull one out, you're pulling a lot out.
I think if push came to shove, I could probably live without Fulci a little bit more. I know.
But then, like I said, you get a lot of people gone in the world. You know what I mean? Every fucking different, like the snap, like fucking Thanos, just tons of people gone. Because you know why? Great. God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, I love Fulci, but the amount of stuff I love from Bava is a little bit more than Fulci, I guess, is kind of where I leave it. But
sure.
And there's still, and I mean, it is as unique as Fulci is. There's still a lot of other people that sort of come in the wake of Bava that do all the same kind of trashy stuff to some degree, at the very least. Right. Not like Fulci does it necessarily, but yeah. Although when you think about it, if you didn't have Fulci, you would probably have Zombie 2, but it'd probably be vastly different.
Oh yeah. And
who knows what that would mean for Romero going forward too, as far as his stuff. So
yeah.
That's Jesus. That's a difficult fucking question. I didn't even
me too, because you jumped right into it. Because last time when I did it, you guys discussed your answers and was like, "Hold on a second, you're not avoiding this."
I didn't realize what kind of Jesus. I opened up the Necronomicon.
You were just so desperate on stumping somebody.
Yeah, I opened up the fucking unholy book and spoke the words without even
Pandora's
thinking about it.
box.
Box man. Yeah. Anyway, definitely not a first time watch for me, but this was one of the films I first saw on A&E. Oh. And the interesting thing about this is that it was back in the period where A&E didn't really give a shit about censoring movies. Like they were kind of, if it said PG, it's fine. We'll just play it at 3:00 in the afternoon and just let it roll. Mm-hmm. And so I saw this basically uncut, except for commercial breaks on A&E, and you got all the gore, you got the naughty bits with the princess there in that one.
Yeah, but it's not really that huge. That's not a huge scene.
No,
I kind of overlooked that, and I kind of overlooked that when
now they would cut that out.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, he would have a field day if anybody cut his films. He'd be at the fucking gates with the just crazy. But it's for a PG film, it's really dark. It's really violent. Even though he shows it often, but it's comedic in a way. Yeah, you have just crazy, he pulls it off for comedy, but it's definitely dark comedy. Right?
He has a way of telling stories in a comedic way, and he has a way of kind of expressing life issues in a comedic way. Because if you look at all the Monty Python movies, and if you look at all the other ones, it tells an actual story about the realities and the struggles of today, now, or whatever, in the most outlandish, odd, artistic, comedic way. Like this, he's got this talent to do that. Like he's very creative.
I mean, to be honest, as he's gotten older, I mean, the last 5 years he's been very kind of provocative. Like, you know, he's, and I think he's just doing it as a like a gimmick. I don't think he's really doing it like just to kind of piss people off. But people are, you know, so sensitive nowadays that they just don't understand that it's someone fucking with you. You know what I mean? Like he went off this whole thing about like, what is it? He wanted to be called. He was like referring to him as a black woman in interviews when his last film came out. And people were just like not understanding the jokes that he was pulling off. Like, he was just fucking with the because it was so in this, because he's been in the UK since pretty much around the Pythons. He gave up his citizenship like 20 years ago, maybe. And he, you know, he just doesn't get how the culture, but he's playing it off as a gag. Like he's doing a gimmick, and people are just like, you know, standing on their, you know, soapboxes, you know, demanding that he's apologize. He's no, I'm not going to do any of that.
He's a very big line pusher.
Yeah.
Like,
but like he's always been like that.
As far as he can. Yeah, he absolutely has.
He's been always like that with everything he does. Especially this film is being the start. You can definitely see the kind of stuff that he likes to talk about through every film, right? Because it starts with here, and like commerce and, you know, like all that kind of stuff is just right there. It's just
very very critical of government and like this like monarchy and bureaucracy. And he doesn't even do it so much in the actual dialogue as he does in just the visuals, where everything in the castle is decrepit, ruined, falling apart. Like the tower's just falling, you know, just
in the West Tower.
Yeah, we'll have your bridal suite in the Western Tower, and then the West Tower falls. Not only is the entire castle old and decrepit, so is the king, right? It's just everything is depicted as that.
Yeah, and you have a character like our main character who is more interested in trying to figure out the easier way to do things within the jobs he gets put in. Like with his father as the cooper, he's more interested in worrying about the inventory. Like, you checked it in the morning, like you don't need to check it now. And when he forces him to kind of apprentice him, he just rolls his eyes at his father, you know, and you just see the man is just not wanting it, and you can understand why he would curse a pox on him and just own him.
Yeah, there's this whole modern business practices versus traditional craftsmanship and like, you know, artisanal workmanship kind of thing that's sort of going on at the beginning there, especially. And you know, he doesn't necessarily like linger on these points either. He just kind of like he gives you almost like a vignette about it.
Yeah, well,
and then kind of moves on.
Bureaucracy, I think, is a big thing about this film, and how the people who run everything don't really know what the fuck they're doing, right? And they just kind of wake up in the morning and have an agenda and want to do it. And if that means it ruins people's lives,
that was actually
there's this whole joust going through the whole film because they have to find a knight to take on the Jabberwocky, and everybody's like, why do we need to do this? Like, why can't we just pick something? Who wants to do it? And then go do it. Like, why do we have to have this day on day about jousting matches where people are just being murdered viciously, you know? Just to find one guy who survives the whole thing. It's like, why don't we just, hey, you have 10 guys, hey, which one wants to go? And then those guys go out, try to do it, and then whoever actually does it comes back and gets the reward. And just, you know, and there's people all around the king constantly going, why are we doing this? And at times he's like, maybe you're right. And then he's like, no, we need to do this. He wakes up the next morning and just his mindset about continuing it.
It's a really interesting point that you bring up too, because when they talk about just in general how a lot of people try to like cut corners and try to do different things differently, while someone who does the job and knows how to do it the way they do it, it's great that there could be a way that shortens the time. But if you're forced to try and make changes, you create chaos. So like that one scene in the armory where he's like, if you just move it here, and that one step just caused this whole domino effect of destruction. And it's kind of, that's basically showing that in just the world, like the actual business, the working world, that when you take something and you try to cut corners and you try to take things away and say like, oh, we're making it easier for you, but changing what you're used to and being forced to do it it causes a lot of tension. It causes a lot of stress. It causes a lot of anger, like just in general. Because if you tell somebody, like even if you think about it, like just your drive to work every day, you got your same path every day, and all of a sudden they decide we're going to close this road and you have to go around. How pissed off do you get? So that's just basically like what you saw. You saw like the people who are basically forced to change things when they're so used to knowing what they do.
Right.
And there's there's no rhyme or reason for the change. It's just, I want to change it, so you should do it.
Yeah, but it's like there's no middle management. So everybody he does this to, they just kind of take him and throw him out of the room because they're like, get out. We don't need you here. Like, there's no reason to change these things. You know, coming with work and whatnot. Like, I work for, you know, a government business. And you can definitely tell, like, the older guys I work with get annoyed with the little things they change on us every week or every month. Right. And it's just like, but everybody else, like, we're all younger, we adapt and move on. But these older guys are just so used to doing it the same way, all the time. So you can definitely tell, like, the frustration and stuff like that. And it's not intentional. They're doing it because it saves money or it saves time or whatever. And it's just the same thing with this. He clearly moves. He's like, you can do this, and it will save you 10 seconds or whatever the hell it is. He's like, I don't want to save 10 seconds. I'm used to doing it the same way I'm doing it all the time. Right? It's just like with a tournament. The tournament is something they did every year, so why change it? Like, who cares? Why are we arguing about this? Let's continue doing it. You know, and even at the end, when the king kind of comes to his senses and like, yeah, what's the point of this? Like, and it's already pretty much figured out. You know, how the Black Knight is won, and he's the one who's going to go off and fight the Jabberwocky.
Hide and go seek contest.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's brilliant to set that kind of discussion in the time period that this is, ostensibly set in.
Dark Ages,
a feudal system where everybody has their set role, right? You know, and you don't punch out of your weight class. Basically, you're always doing.
There's
what you're
that scene when he gets into town and he sees the beggar and he's cut off his foot, right? And he finds out that he's actually the same. He does the same job really well that his father used to do, and he explains to you. And, he says, I was a cooper in assistant. He's like, oh, I was a cooper. And he's like, and he goes, but I make more money and I do better sitting here begging. And he deliberately, and then later in the film, he actually cuts off his other foot because it'll better him overall and and what he makes, which is just like, okay. And that's another idea, like what you're saying, like people who are working on something, that they pride worth, that they're not really getting the respect for what they make, that they'd rather do something easier, like begging, and make more money off of it, which is just kind of like, it's humorous because it's just like,
makes me think of like the sort of trustafarian kind of thing where rich kids like dress up in street clothes and go down the street and beg and make more money than they would make at their Starbucks job or wherever the fuck they're
or
going,
even working for their father or something like that.
Yeah.
Which shows like an issue in general, because like, why would someone's willing to cut off their foot in order to make money instead of actually working means that there's something wrong with the system. But I thought also just it shows how right place, right time, a little bit of luck, you can absolutely end up on top. But that's the thing. Right place, right time happens to the one person, because the other guy who is more higher qualified couldn't find anything that could really help him get anywhere other than begging. Yeah. And then you see Michael Palin, who ends up becoming a prince entirely accidentally. Like, just,
he doesn't even want it. He's just caught up in the ceremony and the pomp and circumstance that the whole society is predicated on.
He gets exactly what he wants.
The armory guy dies because he was squished by a bed, and then he ends up there because he destroyed the fucking armory, and then he thinks the princess thinks he's a prince because he accidentally ended up there, and then he ends up killing the Jabberwocky completely by accident. Like, it's just and I love so a big thing that I love about the endings of these movies is that they're always so disappointing. Like, it's never a satisfaction. Like, there's never that satisfying conclusion. Like, the good one is Holy Grail, like, where it just completely ends, just no ending, whatever. And this one ends like he finally gets the girl that he wants, and is okay. By the way, hey, you're marrying my daughter. Yeah. And you see this. You see Michael Palin screaming for his love.
I mean,
running away with the princess.
I mean, technically, he's way better off in every regard.
He is, but it's still not what he wants.
even though the princess is in a totally different movie, like she's in the the medieval fantasy picture, kind of thing, and she's just delusional as fuck. But at least she's not a shitty person like Griselda is, who's just like this lazy, boring,
boorish,
boorish
dull,
thing,
Family who the kids piss on the right next to him as he's talking.
Oh yeah, the fucking they talk about gross out comedies now, right? This has all of that. Like
the guy shitting as he's talking.
Everything like
cocked out the window.
And I like that aesthetic that he carries over from Holy Grail, right? Like where everything is filthy. This is like much more closer to what the Middle Ages would have looked like.
Right.
Everybody's teeth are bad.
Yeah, everything's dirty. Everything's muddy. It's gross. No one takes care of
Clothes
themselves.
Are dirty. Like the sanitation's off.
If you're
like the potato that he keeps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like and the crumbling infrastructure and all that stuff. It's like, okay, that's perfect. It's not what you read in the books and stuff like that. The fantasy
or you see in the movies usually.
Yeah, it's much more accurate and it takes the piss out of like how the British kind of look at that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They all, it's an American's idea of what from living in that country for so many years that he kind of takes heavily. And he worked a lot as the art director for the Holy Grail, to kind of make it, they had their own gags and whatnot, but like the kind of the look and everything like that, how dirty it was. And just like, that's his piece right there. And then you get to like the Jabberwocky, which is kind of like when it pops up finally, because there's kind of constant scenes of just POV of it attacking people or this, there, and that, another. And when you finally actually get a look of it, it's kind of exactly what you expect. It's what Carol wrote about and what people have drawn for years about like what it looks like.
Looks like
and even like with the Burton film, he pretty much took the same kind of concept, just made it bigger and scarier looking. But it's the same. It's the same thing. It's never changed.
I love that even the Jabberwocky looks like haggard and old and like decrepit, like its wings are all full of holes. It just looks like this. Yeah, it looks like this fucking like giant mutant rooster, basically. Right. That's been gone to the ringer. But I mean, it looks great. I love it. I mean, I love that to pull off that effect, like it's all practical and shit. They just had a guy in a suit walking backwards so they could get the chicken legged kind of effect, and everything.
They are so creative. Like the way they use everything, like the camera use and how they create a scenery and how they create atmosphere is absolutely beautiful. This happened in Holy Grail, Life of Brian, and this movie as well. Every time, like you see in the Holy Grail when they have the night, the Life of Brian when he meets the alien. There's all these scenes that are so basic, like on budget-wise, it's so basic. The camera work is so well done that gets you involved. Like the poacher right at the beginning, when you're just following along, like you feel that intensity, and it's all because of the camera work. It's literally just the simplicity of taking the camera and making you involved in the moment. And then as soon as he's dragged up by the Jabberwocky, like that is so cool to watch. Like that is such a cool way to make you feel for Terry Jones as he's helplessly captured by this massive fucking monster.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is that it's cheap. It's a cheap, gag. It's him on a cherry picker, pretty much, with a camera right on his face. And it works so well. And it's just because it's Terry Jones, he can make a really good face. And then we just have him sitting there with that tore up body and his head, just placed in that mound of shit. And it's like, it works perfectly. And using Palin as the main character works because he's probably out of all the Pythons the most kind of.
I love Palin.
He's like but he's the most kind of typical kind of everyman.
Everyman,
He's always played that character, even when he's played certain other. When he kind of branches out, but he pulls it off. Like it wouldn't work if there's anyone else. If it was any other Python, it was. It was Jones or it was Eric Idle, it wouldn't have worked at all, right? Because they would have just hammed it up, right? And even I think it was just like by the time they made this film, they were all kind of sick of each other, right?
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell like Jones and Gilliam and Palin all kind of got along. You even hear interviews with them, they all talk about how they used to work all together, even when Gilliam was kind of doing his art and stuff like that. He would still kind of pal around with them, and they kind of had their own little cliques.
It was John Cleese who was the asshole.
Yeah, it was Cleese. Yeah, Cleese was gone by this time.
Yeah, he was gone. He was giving up. He just was like,
he did
done.
a couple things. He did Fish Called Wanda with
a couple of years later, but he did with Palin, which makes sense. But the thing is, like, they had their own little groups. Eric Idle was by himself because he didn't really write with anyone else. Jones and Palin wrote with themselves by them together, and then Cleese and fuck, I can't think of his name.
Graham Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman.
I know they butted heads. Like
they all did their own bits together, and then they get together and then work things out. That's how they would write all the shows. That's how they write the movies. So by the time they got to that the height that they were at, they were all sick of each other, right?
Yeah.
Well, the last season, John Cleese refused to be a part of it, the flying circuses.
Well, he wrote two sketches, but he didn't want to be in a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want to be a. He didn't want them to use names. So like the final one doesn't even have the exact same name. I think it's like called Python or something.
Yeah, and I watched those, and boy, are they.
Yeah, they're tough because they're like half-hour long length of sketch. Just one sketch reaches out for the whole time, and it's like, they're trying something and they're trying to see if it sticks, and it doesn't really always work.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, I don't know if this is a thing because from every source I can see that Terry Gilliam he only sort of started doing wanting to do his never finished Don Quixote movie. I think he first thought about it in 1989. Most of the sources say, but it feels like this is kind of like the last act of this film is almost kind of a dry run for visually some of the stuff he was probably gonna think of using when he got there, kind of thing. It really feels like it. It's some of those scenes, when there's not comedy happening, it gets a really authentic looking. You buy this is medieval times. This shit's really going down, kind of stuff, right?
Right.
And
there's no beautifying the old day. The
only thing that really kind of works as the beautiful is the fact that the princess is off on her own thing and she's only being taken care of by all these maids and and mystery and people, right? She's off doing anything else. She's pretty much kept in like a chamber to herself
with sister Jessica.
Yeah, she's got she got a nun with her, and she got all her little people who work with her, bathe her, dress her, and she doesn't really. The only time she really deals with the people is when they're doing the joust, which as people are dying in front of her, which she has no real shock of, which is the other thing that's
they get covered in blood.
They just get sprayed with blood the whole time, and you're just like, the first time I was watching it, I looked down and I'm like, what the hell? What? Like, what is? I'm like, okay, I forgot about it. And then again, when they crash in, you see this big spray of blood as the king's highest man is sitting there arguing with him. Why are we still doing this? Like, why? It's a constant thing. And I keep bringing it up, but it's like the one main thing in the film is that the bureaucracy is just like, we don't change it. Like, what's the point of changing it? Like,
I think kind of cool how they brought up the forced change and then the needing of change that's not changed. So that's So I think a big thing with all these type of movies, like the Terry and Michael Palin and Terry Jones, the movies that they write are always so boundary pushing. Like, I know Life of Brian, I think, is still banned in a couple of states because it's against the Messiah, but it's not even about the Messiah. It's about a wrongful Messiah. But how they bring up religion and how they bring up politics and how they bring up the stuff. These movies are hilarious to watch. Like, I watched these as a kid and I had no idea about religion and politics and all this kind of stuff. And I thought they were funny visually and funny just to watch in general. Yeah. And then as you get older, these movies are absolutely genius. These movies bring up topics in such a way, like they bring up such ideas and concepts and I think I just said ideas. I'm blanking. Yeah. But anyways.
Double ideas.
Double the ideas. They bring it up so well. Like, they do it in such a comedic way that it can be appreciated from all ages.
Well, when
too young to watch this, but we still watched it. But yeah, too young to watch this, but still appreciate it because it's just this ridiculousness around it.
And you gotta remember too, when they were doing their stuff in their heyday, this is a time when institutionalized religion was still a real strong force in Britain.
Speak bad of it, yeah.
Like
there were a bunch of atheists at the time that people looked up to, but like to speak bad of God in any form in the late 70s, even in 70s in general, it was a huge no.
Yeah, and like the churches still had basically control of the school system and stuff like that, and they had that discussion on a talk show, British talk show at one point in the 70s there with like
around the time of Life of Brian,
yeah. So like they were actively butting heads and pushing boundaries.
I love this kind of stuff because this is just saying what you want to do, say what you want to say, and like actually using art as a way to express an opinion. Yeah. And I know a lot of times they try to censor art, but I think like as art, whether or not we like it, like you just let people do it. Like even if I disagree with it, I should still let the people say what they want to say. Like they're using their art to express. Cool, express what you need to express. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it. I can think you're a piece of shit for it, but I still think you should have that medium to have it. I kind of want to link this to like John Waters and Divine as well, because they're also like line pushers when it comes to this kind of stuff with the movies that they made. It's just this was more comedic and theirs was more like, I'm trying to think of the word now. I'm blanking. But anyways, it was just a different way of expressing an opinion about something. And I just think it's so cool. Like it's just such a cool concept to not force things in your way, but to take an artistic way to bring up a point.
Right. It's definitely something where it's like you have the kids of the day, because they were all like still young men, and they were pushing the boundaries of something that it was being talked about, right? So I mean, with this film, it's more about commerce and bureaucracy, right? And how things are done, and how things get, how no one really looks at it, right? And it's just he kind of puts that little staple in there and kind of pushes it. It's just the character itself. The character Dennis is not really anything. He's kind of a boring, kind of humdrum character that just kind of falls backwards into things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he even when he becomes friends with the guy who's cheating, usually when he's screwing the bartender's wife, and when he his untimeliness, it's like that, and like all the scenes of the men going to battle in the joust, and how it's like pretty much like it's like a mechanic. They have to be bolted into these suits of armor, and they have to have pieces taken out so they can pretty much loosen their bowels and shit like that. It's such a crazy little scene where you just see all these men, bringing these people up, tying everything together, bolting everything down, and kind of just letting them out just for one thing. Maybe they'll be able to survive. And you have all these guys kind of just dragging these dead men out, and it's just, put another body on the pit, and it's like, okay, next, like, and it's just like how and another thing is that because of the Jabberwocky, it's another thing that is that the Jabberwocky is this big fear. We had the fear last year with the COVID, and a lot of people were buying more shit than they needed because they thought they were never going to leave their house. So I might as well pack up for the rest of the just like 9/11 was a whole big thing. We went to war because of it, because we all thought there was some kind of entity there, which we were all lied to about, and like it's just this kind of fear mongering to kind of help bureaucracy kind of continue its reign in a certain way. And it's just,
because all the merchants, they don't want the Jabberwocky killed because it's good for business. So
and religion, because people are going to church.
The more people going to church because
the religious people depicted in this are fucking crazy as shit.
Well,
even crazier.
It's not, even though it's just 77, it still really hasn't changed much.
No, it hasn't. The only other real funny thing I just want to mention is at one point we get a giant fucking Jabberwocky shit. And I just go, I'm just thinking to myself, Steven Spielberg, you fucking hack. You obviously saw this in Jurassic Park, 20 years later. But yeah, no, I love this film. It's easy to watch. It's really funny. Maybe it goes on a little too long. Maybe like it could cut a little bit out of like some of the side characters,
exaggerated.
But I mean, I'm not.
But the thing is, it's also him kind of the Pythons had started a studio production company, because they had made enough money where they can actually do this, and they were like, we want to make other people's films, and Gilliam was one of the first ones, and you can definitely tell that he had the carte blanche and the kind of like the open checkbook almost to kind of do what he wanted. And if it was going to be almost, it's going to be a long one, whatever, and he's going to pack it in there as much as he can. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it works as a first, not technically first time filmmaker, but as his first solo effort. You can definitely see all we'd see in later films. The blueprint on this film would be what he would continue to make later on. He may change things and kind of add some things, but mostly it's all there. Right in this film.
Yeah. We got anything else we want to mention before we get into like trivia and things? Okay. So the budget for this was £500,000, I believe. It said dollars, but I think it's actually pounds that they calculated it in. No original box office, although it did not make its money back. But the re-release in 2001 earned it $19,000. So there you go.
I think that that's like a general census with a lot of their movies. Like they don't do well in theaters, but they become like cult classics.
Yeah. I do want to mention I really like the soundtrack for this. Like it's a he's just going cheap. Okay, a bunch of classical music we don't have to pay for, and a bunch of DeWolf library music too stuck in there. So it's really good stuff, and a lot of this stuff actually pops up in like the Monty Python TV shows and stuff too. So they actually have like a Python album they released a few years back that has like all this shit in it. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. I think I have a record from them too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, they put out a bunch of comedy records and stuff like that too.
Yeah. So you can find this everywhere. There's a ton of DVD, Blu-ray releases, including Criterion.
Criterion just came out,
iTunes, Google Play, Microsoft Store, Fandango.
It's on Prime if you're paying for Prime. Yeah.
Vudu, Movies Anywhere. It's basically everywhere. So,
I just want to mention really, really quick, I fucking love Michael Palin. Like, I absolutely love him. I'm just going to put it out there right now. He was one of my favorite Pythons. Him and Eric Idle, like my top two. Yeah. But him, I just love his facial expressions. Like, he could just steal a scene without saying a word. I just want to say that.
He does have the most likable face kind of in the group, right? It's like he just looks like the everyman. That's why he was perfect for it.
He was just, I love him. Every time I see him, I'm just like, I just want to like squeeze your cheeks and hug you.
So although, like we mentioned, not an official Monty Python film, it contains a number of apparent subtle nods and winks to Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So, like, Palin's character being called Dennis also played a Dennis and Grail. Also, in most scenes, the king appears to be holding the holy hand grenade of Antonok. That is using Grail to kill the killer rabbit, right? In some countries, this movie was promoted and released as a Monty Python's Jabberwocky, which, Terry Gilliam clamped down on that pretty quick, though. He was like,
he lost his shit about that stuff. Yeah, he never liked that.
And the death of Cooper's father was inspired by writer and director Terry Gilliam's friend from the 1960s, who's a folk singer and whose father had died. On his deathbed, he was raving and told her how much he had hated her and completely denounced her as his daughter.
That's amazing, but sad at the same time.
Yeah,
that's a story you drink out on. That's the thing. Jesus,
it's like, no, Joni Mitchell, you're not my daughter. I hate you. But that's fucking it.
That's fucking it.
That's fucking it, man. There was more trivia, but I was like, whatever. Thank you very much, Vaughn, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on.
No, thank you. I know I'm actually a very nice person. I know. I warned Lee before I came in here because it's like a tendency to kind of be a little acerbic. But I want to take it easy. I kind of knew I wasn't going to have a problem with Mr. Lee over here because he's such a good guy. Such a wonderful guy.
Is he though?
The interactions I've had with him so far, I've known him as long as you've known him. But
well, I mean,
I've only known him for like a year.
Yeah, so I don't know what that says about you, Lady Lee, if you're questioning this shit. No.
My tastes are very.
I have to say though, having a woman on the show, I'm going to say this out because it used to be just the biggest sausage party. Even though I do like Daniel, and I liked his opinions and whatnot, because he's. But it's nice to have a woman on a show that's kind of normally mostly male heavy. I mean, it's a good change. I know Daniel's going to come back at some point, right? After his little hiatus. Yeah. But it's a nice little change because, I listen to a lot of podcasts where it's mostly just guys talking into microphones. It's just like their dick right in front of their face and you're just like, So it's nice to have some like a different voice and a different kind of point of view. So.
Yes,
I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell us where people can find your Sausage Party podcast, Vaughn.
Yeah, right. Oh, God. So Motion Picture Massacre, if you've heard the promo, is a podcast about genre film. Esoteric cinema, as my ex-wife would call it. I kind of dig and find the sillier shit to talk about. You can find it at motionpicturemassacre.wordpress.com. And if you're online, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, it's MP Massacre if you want to follow me on that stuff. And that's pretty much the easiest way to get in touch with me anyway. So,
and I suggest you do. It's an excellent podcast. So
thank you.
Yeah. So anything you need to plug this time around, Lady Lee?
Go check out Vaughn's podcast. There you go.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So next time, we're probably going to be doing The Girl with a Pistol, older Italian flick with Daniel Segura of Mustachio Picasso. But apparently I'm going to have to kick his ass and make him remember that he's recording next week.
Yeah.
Well, this episode, make him listen to it. He'll be like, oh shit, I'm on it.
But yeah, if you want to find us, the rest of our stuff, tmbdos.podbean.com, where you can find our Apple Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, all that good crap. Join the Facebook group. Stuff happens there once in a while. You can make stuff happen if you post there. And yeah, we're going to get the fuck out of here.
Nice.
So again, thank you, Vaughn. And thank you, Lady Lee. And thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For further episodes, our Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and YouTube links, please go to tmbdos.podbean.com. Thank you. Drive through.